is the 9th of May and Russia celebrates the Victory Day, victory in the Second World War, or the Great Patriotic War as it's called here, in Russia. So, in this video, I will tell you about this very important event, its history, main attributes, how I participated in it when I lived in Russia, how this holiday actually is used by the government. Moscow airports are closed. The internet connection is cut off. There is a big military parade in Moscow, and leaders of different countries that are friendly to Russia visited it. And today, as you see, we will personally visit the parade, although not in Russia but in Serbia, because today I happen to be in Belgrade and I learned that here they do have this celebration and I could not miss this opportunity. I would like to talk about my experience and attitude to this day. In Russia there's a special term, it's called the Great Patriotic War. It is referred to the period of time from the 22nd of June 1941 up to the 9th of May 1945. And the Soviet Union fought the Nazi Germany in the Eastern Front. And basically almost every Soviet family was affected by this war. Not only Russia, but soldiers from all the Soviet Union were mobilized. Even in my family, my great-grandfather, as I know, died. I even know that somewhere in Ukraine, but his family never got his body. And there's even his and my surname on the monument in our hometown. When I was growing up, I always knew about this holiday. It is something important. There was a big celebration in my city, parades, and there were mandatory military contests and events in my school when every year we were supposed to march, singing military songs. And also on the 9th of May we were gathered by our teacher for the special memorial events. I remember one time we collected balloons and flowers. Another day we were supposed to visit the concert on the main square and so on. Also about the main attributes of this event. One of them is parade, of course. There is a big military parade on the Red Square and small versions of it in the different cities around Russia. In Moscow, and they actually use special technologies to move the clouds so that it's not raining for that special day. And knowing that the 9th of May is such an important day, I was surprised to learn that actually it was not always like this, because in the Soviet times it started to be celebrated only 20 years after the victory. It was a quiet family event, the day of sorrow, because people still could not forget the horrors of that war. But in the 2000s, the Russian government started to revive it. There were almost no military parades with tanks until 2008, when Putin reintroduced it, and the military parades took place on the Red Square, which is actually smaller in real life. They make it to look as a very massive event on the TV, but when I visited the Red Square, I was surprised how small it is. Another attribute is the St. George's ribbon. This symbol dates back to the times of the Russian Empire, but only in 2000s it became a symbol of this day, the 9th of May. And vandalizing this ribbon is actually a crime. In 2022, when the full-scale invasion to Ukraine began, they again used this ribbon in this Russian military symbol, Z and V. Another common thing is stickers that the ultra-patriotic people would put on their cars. Usually it's something like, "We won." There's this notorious phrase, "We can repeat it." For Berlin, people also dressed their kids in military uniform during this celebration. Another practice that appeared in the new post-Crimea annexation Russia is the train of victory. So they loaded a train with military equipment and different trophies. This train goes all the way from the west of Russia to Vladivostok. Also, what changed in the last decade or even two in Russia, there appeared a lot of glossy military movies subsidized by the government, so it's sponsored by the Russian Ministry of Culture. It was kind of mandatory to go to the screening when I was at school. Remember, we watched this movie called Stalingrad. Tons of taxpayers' money being invested into these movies. They're actually not that popular among the Russian people, but anyway, they have the plan to make such movies every year. There is always a love story, there is always the main character ready to die for his motherland, the Soviet Union, but kind of implying that you, dear viewer, should be ready to die for today's Russia too. And now I'll tell you about the Immortal Regiment. Essentially, it is a procession of people carrying photos of their family members who died at the war. This event started as a private initiative by some activists from the city of Tomsk, and then it was noticed by the government in Moscow, and they kind of hijacked this movement. And actually the activists who invented it didn't like it, and they didn't want to collaborate with the authorities, and there were some beefs. But anyway, the government already picked up this idea because it was very convenient for the propaganda machine, because before this movement, real war veterans visited the parades, but they would go out in their military uniform. But now almost there is no veterans, so the government decided, why not to use their pictures? That's how they began promoting the Immortal Regiment, making it a whole country movement, pouring a lot of money into it. It happened even in my hometown, in Spassk. And I remember how in 2015, even my friend participated there with his father, holding a portrait of his great-grandfather who died at the war. But 9 years after that, this friend of mine goes to the special military operation with Ukraine as a contract soldier and dies there. I shared about this in one of my previous videos. He died exactly 1 year ago. And this year I learned about how the government commemorated him. So now there is a board with his picture on the walls of our school. Also, his portrait was displayed on a big poster in the city. There were cases when, with the beginning of invasion to Ukraine in 2022, people appeared on the Immortal Regiment events with photos of the soldiers who died recently at this new conflict. But they were detained and fined for this. There were cases when people went to the Immortal Regiment with posters saying like they fought for the peace, and they were detained for this. That's why the government even cancelled the Immortal Regiment. Now they are returning it kind of, but still there's a threat that people would bring photos of their recently deceased relatives. The Russian anthropologist Alexandra Arkhipova actually interviewed people who participate in the Immortal Regiment. She said that even before 2022, people she interviewed were actually saying that the West was going to take away their values, the memory of the war, and that's why they go out and bring their grandchildren to this movement. But today I invite you to Immortal Regiment. I actually found an organization called the Russian House in Belgrade. It is sponsored by the Russian government, and I messaged them asking whether there is going to be the Immortal Regiment this year. And they kindly replied to me with congratulations on their upcoming holiday. To what I answered, I congratulate you too, thank you. You know, I felt like this meme because they congratulate me on the holiday that I kind of don't want to celebrate because I don't quite agree with the new meaning of the holiday. I am excited and a lot scared because I feel like I'm a spy. What if there will be people with these symbols as well? I don't know what I will see tomorrow. Let's go. I haven't been to such a big event related to something Russian with Russian songs and symbolics for a while. You can see the motorbikes are the first ones here. The procession started. They're heading to the Republic Square for the concert. The good thing is I didn't see any Z symbols or Russian flags here, only the flag of Serbia and Soviet Union flag. And here you can see flags of the countries who fought in the Great Patriotic War, being a part of the Soviet Union. I actually was too fast to say that I didn't see any pro-Russian symbolics here because here it is the Russian Empire flag and it says, "We are Russians, God with us." Also, now people are singing the Second World War time song called Katyusha. I'm scared. Yeah, so this is the kind of concert that I expected to film here, and I should have just waited for the end of the parade because these people are gathered in the very end of it. For some reason, they currently were screaming Slava России, which is glory to Russia.
Может, одна песенка от меня.
Песенка.
Собака Качалова. Дай Джим на части лапу мне, такую лапу не видал я сроду. Я никогда училась русский.
Хорошо очень говорите. Да. Спасибо большое.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about. On the personal level, for regular people, this day means so much, and this Serbian lady was very emotional, so that she decided to sing this song that means so much for her, and she sang it in Russian. And the most striking thing is that, of course, I am not against this holiday. I understand how important it is, and that the Soviet Union contributed a lot to the great victory, fighting together with other countries against the Nazi Germany. And it is a personal sorrow for almost every family in the post-Soviet countries. It is a big generational trauma for our people, but what I don't like is that the government appropriated this holiday for their own gain, because they connect the sacred memory with today's Russia, raising the patriotism level in the minds of today's Russian youth, so that people are ready to go to Ukraine and die for Russia because Russia is equal to the Soviet Union and the Soviet Union fought the Nazi Germany. Now we are supposed to fight with a Western civilization that aims to destroy Russia and our traditional values, something like this. But this marching contest and military movies that I had in my school years were nothing in comparison with what happens now. Since 2022, the government introduced the conversation about the importance, a new subject in the educational program where they discuss serving to the motherland, patriotism, how important it is to love your country. It's also outrageous that the war with Ukraine is still going on, and Russia still bombs Ukraine every day. It's been 3 years already. Even when the war is going on, they still hold such glossy and huge parades. Procession ended here on the Republic Square. There is a concert with the Serbian and Russian musicians. And this is the end of my video. Well, what I can say, I'm still under the impression of the Immortal Regiment that I saw, especially its last part with the Russian group. I think it was important to tell about the initial meaning of this holiday and how it is celebrated now in Russia. Thanks for watching. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe to my channel, and write in the comments what you think about the Victory Day and its celebration in today's Russia. I wish you all the best, and I wish every one of us have a peaceful sky above. Goodbye, пока-пока.